The design phase of our construction industry right now, dude, we are pushing more and more incomplete design documentation to construction than ever now. We don't ever see a complete for construction set of drawings, save maybe a military job. I'm serious.
Our dad, who's been helping clean out a lot of the collection, we'll say, at Grandma and Pop's house, came across some blueprints, blueprints. Brought them back, gave them to Eddie and me, and said, "Hey, just open these up together and go, just take a look." And the prints are of our great-grandfather's home.
Yes.
Up in Ohio. And it's residential. It's not a commercial building by any stretch. But, I mean, that home has a ton of sentimental value. I know especially to, like, Dad's cousins, to you in some ways, because, like, you were a baby running around in that basement. You know,
yeah, I was young.
Home, I think.
Yeah, I remember being in the home for sure, though. Yeah, I was young, but not so young.
I never got that opportunity because there's a 13-year age gap.
Yeah, right.
But one thing that you see when you look at that is exactly what you said: artistry. Like, it's art, and it's an architectural drawing.
Yep.
You know, and it also had the framing plan. You know, the wall framing plan, roof framing, and all that stuff in there, which is pretty cool.
Heating plan.
Yeah. You know, drawings of the fireplace and, like, gosh, man, the detail in it.
Ash pit. Did you see the ash pit on there?
No, I didn't see the ash pit.
Furnace.
For the furnace?
Yeah.
That's
pretty cool.
No, dude, and it's funny because you look at it and then you looked it up on, was it Zillow, or did you look it up on, like, Google Maps something?
Google Maps to see what the Google car got going down the street, and so you could see the front elevation of the house. Put it directly next to the plan.
Still standing. Still beautiful.
Well, of course. Yes.
Like, still just like, it's simple home.
Very small, simple home.
Small, simple home. Not anything like extravagant with, like, the big columns in the front like we see down here in the South. You know, not like that. But
we hail from simple roots.
Yeah, simple roots.
Simple carpenters.
Mm-hmm. But that is one of those things where I was like, holy cow, dude, that's a rarity. That's a rarity. So anyway, we're coming down off of that, coming into this episode.
You know, the guys were commercial construction. Great grandpa, Pop, Pop's brothers, they were all, we've talked about the Messer connection, all commercial guys. But those guys would get together almost for, like, the barn raising. And so when they were building their homes, when they were putting a roof on their house, whatever, they'd get together and they would work together and they would bring those projects together. It's a cool thing. I mean, they would bring their talents to bear over in their personal life. I know that there's been a measure of that has carried on in our family too. That we've had the opportunity to work on some things together. Dad, Mom, they built a house a couple years ago. We got to help out a little with that. I'm sure Dad would have wished us to be out there a little more.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, it is good when you're able to get together and work on something. And that's been the family biz, and that's been kind of what we've done for a long time, generations really. So,
yeah. Well,
cool.
Man, I don't know. There's a lot of nostalgia I think in the building industry for our whole family. You know, there's a lot of pride in it. Dude, I was working through our core values the other day for our business and all that, and it was one of the things I did this exercise. This was kind of fun. So here's a fun one. If you're a business owner or you're looking at starting a business or anything like that, 5 whys. Have you ever done that exercise before?
No.
So this was actually a Chat GPT prompt. I'll be honest with you. I was like, hey, Chat GPT, help me uncover, help me work through this. And it like led me through the process and was like, yeah, do this exercise, try it. And so I did, and it was 5 whys. And it was basically like, what is the thing that your company does? And first question is, why is that important? You write that down, and then you go down to the next layer. Why is that important? And you do it 5 times. Mm-hmm. And the thing that got me, like I got to the end of it, and the last thing that I wrote is like, a better construction industry means a better world. And I started thinking through the impact of the construction industry. Like it fired me up to read it. I was like, heck yeah, that's so true. And I posted something on LinkedIn this morning. It'll probably be weeks from, you'll have to dig back a couple weeks if you go to look now. But I posted something, and it was basically that was the first line. And I was just kind of going through all the different things that our industry touches. Like we touch data centers and roads, hospitals where our kids are born, or where, we get healed for whatever it might be. The sandwich shop across the street that we just came from, like the coffee had to be roasted somewhere. There was a building for that. It's just like you go through all of it and you're like, the place we're sitting right now, the furniture, where it was manufactured, just keep going down the list. And it's just one of those things where I was like, man, this industry's so cool. We get to do some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and like technologically super cool, but the fingerprints that we have. And I think that's something that we often lose sight of when we're in the trenches, is the fingerprints that we have on just the environment around us. I know we referred to this in the past, but driving down the road, especially like down in Tampa, and Dad's just like, hey, look at that. I built that. I built that. I built that. I built that. Like Rodney Dangerfield, 3 of those, 2 of those, that sort of thing. And so
Caddyshack reference.
Yeah. But there's pride in it. We're looking at that house, and it's like our great grandpa like put that stuff together. And like, I'm looking at the drawings, and like, there's a sense of pride even in generations. Mm-hmm. Like there's an element of pride in that. And I don't know, I just don't lose sight of the fact that like your kids will come back and look at what you're doing right now and be like, yeah, my dad, my mom, like they had a part in that. Like that's the reason that exists. And it's like your kids are going to be pretty geeked out too. I don't know, man. I just down the rabbit hole we go, but
it's a cool industry. It really is. You're talking about that. It reminds me of something I've heard about the telecasts that are done on PGA Tour events.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And like the Masters is one. I love watching the Masters. Mm-hmm. And it's been framed up, I believe, by CBS for years it was. And they've just done a magnificent job of creating storylines, to a certain extent, drama. And I mean, you cannot undersell the experience of being out on the grounds and having that for real in front of you. Mm-hmm. But there's also something about capturing that and framing that up in a way that other people can see. So I'm bending this very much voluntarily back into what you're doing at Story Builder. And we're not staying here.
That's fine. That's
But
fine. We don't need to.
I will say that
this wasn't planned, by the way. This was not an extension of the ad that's already running.
You are able to kind of capture and tell the story of construction. Yeah. And I think that, I rib you about, you're not in it anymore. Well,
yeah.
Okay, but telling the story
part of it.
Of what we do in an amazing way is what will attract the talent, is what will make this industry have some magnetism going into the generations of the future. That's what creates the the creative juices that bring about the new ideas, that change the way we put the building together, that change the way that we treat our environment, that change the way that we build. It is important to be able to tell that story well. I know that's something that you kind of leaned into, and so shout out to that.
Well,
that's pretty cool.
There's so many opportunities, man. Like, there's so much out there, just in the nitty gritty. I mean, I don't know if did I talk about the Hartsfield trip at all?
I don't know that you were allowed yet.
I'm gonna glaze around it. Maybe I can get into detail later. But essentially, I did a shoot where we were watching some really freaking huge things get moved across the runways at Hartsfield Jackson, and there was a moment, man. It's like middle of the night, and I'm watching this stuff roll in. And I just like turned to the dude that like was kind of leading the QC, QA charge and everything. And I was like, you realize how awesome this is, right? You realize how cool this is.
Yep.
And he just kind of looked at me. He's like, yeah, this is pretty sweet. I'm like, this is rare. And like, I know it's going to be the same way for him and his like kids and everything. And dude, just being able to see some of that happen, it's, I don't know. It's kind of an honor in a way to just be a fly on the wall. Just be a fly on the wall. That's it. And just watch it.
I don't want to get you in trouble here, but can we speak of it in enough of a vanilla term to say that it was a large project, obviously Hartsfield.
Yes.
Largest.
So
busiest airport.
I'll put it this way. One of the bigger jobs that I detailed was 750 tons. It was a hospital. Down in Tampa. And this thing that they were rolling across the tarmac weighed more than that entire hospital.
It was a module.
It was a module.
That weighed that much as the building.
Yes.
The largest one you'd ever detailed.
The largest one that one of them, because I've done bigger ones than that. But like that, I mean, that stands out as one of the biggest ones that I've done.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, is it huge? No, but it's freaking massive, man. I'm like, just the technical know-how behind it. Like just the communication that had to happen and getting that thing there and making sure it all plugs into place. It's mind-numbing.
So the heart of the show today, and we're going to meander a little bit, but I wanted to come back and look
Definitely will meander.
Well, I want to come back and look with that, like the heart of that in mind, where we're at in construction. And I mean, there are some things that are disheartening to me about where we're at in construction.
Yeah.
And have been for the 5 years we've done this podcast and the 20 years that I've been around the thing, 20 plus since I was in the trades. But then I hear stories like that. And it's like, that wasn't happening 15 years ago.
No.
750 ton modules. And like the level of creativity that it took to think, I'll deliver this project in a completely outside of the box way. Even for the owner in Hartsfield Jackson to say, sure, yeah, we'll do that. The climate has changed.
Yeah.
Construction is changing, evolving, growing. And so that is cool to watch. Like we have borne witness to the evolution and change of construction, but it's been changing a long time.
That story was definitely one that was like enhanced big time by tech, big time, because like the BIM aspect of this, the scanning aspects of this, like before it got there, we were able to know it fit. Mm-hmm. Like that's the kind of stuff that you think about, 15 years ago even. We're kind of starting to crack into this a little bit because I feel like laser scanning was starting to kind of get some interest. And because I think you guys had even talked about that at one point, talking about laser scanners and things. But they're a lot more accessible now.
Oh, yes.
So much more accessible in all sorts of different forms and fashions. And dude, I'm looking at it, I'm like, dude, if we were to do this by hand, there's no way. Like we'd have to get our tape measures out and sketch everything in order to make sure that it fit, like there's no way that we would have been able to accomplish something of that magnitude. That I'm going to say easily, with that amount of ease and that amount of confidence. It's one of the things that I was impressed by, is that I was kind of thinking that the person who was doing a lot of the QC was going to be like kind of nervy, that it wasn't going to fit. So I'm like, man, I would be nervy. I'd be very nervy. Cool as a cucumber. He's just like, nah, we've checked it. It's going to fit. It's just like confident. Just, nah, it'll fit. It works. It works.
The monetary investment.
Oh yeah, no, we won't get into that. I don't think we can, but like it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And the pressure on that thing working. But that was one of those testaments of like, and I've been getting a little bit of flack too about some of like the tech conversation. Because I'd posted another thing the other day that was like basically kind of talking about construction tech companies and that sort of thing, not providing enough value and all. And I wanna come clean. Like, I don't hate tech. I freaking love it. Like, I spent 10 years detailing 3D models. Like, you don't come out of that and not have a mind of like, dude, no, this can change the way we work. I believe it can. And like, there are just instances of that all over the industry right now. So I think the tech space is like big time shifting. I think there's a lot more demand from subs, which is really good. Like the sub trades are coming into the equation, and it's less about the general contractors. It's more about the sub trades now, where it's like, oh no, we got to fold them in too. So it feels like things are starting to come together more.
Yep.
Whereas like when I was first starting, especially, it was just like, oh, this GC has this project management tool, and like, yeah, we can never get access to it, you know, like, and it's still a problem, but there's more awareness around these problems. And I feel like we're going to start seeing them fixed more and more.
Yeah.
Over time.
Even that speak is kind of going by the wayside. Subcontractor is giving way to the specialty contractor just because the notion that they're not sub anything, like they're a specialty. And the idea that we've got to work together, like we've definitely become more collaborative. And you see varying levels of that. So, I mean, the good is that we know we need to be more collaborative.
Oh, yeah.
We know that we need to come together. And I've been involved in more BIM meetings than ever. Like that's a requirement of larger projects.
How are those going, by the way?
Some of them good, some of them bad. You know, sometimes they are handled very well. Sometimes I'm there exactly when I need to be, and I'm able to not be there when I'm not needed. Sometimes I'm just sequestered. You know, I'm just expected to show up, and that kind of sucks. But it just depends on who's managing and how they're doing it.
That's one area that I would provide some feedback on. I know, like I've experienced that, and I know you've talked about this. Hopefully, they're getting better, but like. Golly, man, if you're running a BIM meeting or BIM team and you're just like, we're showing up for an hour every Monday at 2 to put our models together. Like, I understand the reason why you're setting like a standard time for everybody to show up, but also like there's the lack of awareness too that comes into play there sometimes of like, hey, my steel guy's here. He doesn't need to be here today.
Yeah.
And then you don't say anything and they sit there for an hour wasting all their flipping time. It's like there's got to be some awareness around that. That's more like a personal side of things, I feel like. That's not solved by tech. That's solved by process.
Yeah, that's the strength of the online meetings. Like if I drive across town and it's an hour slot meeting, I'm going to stay to the end of the hour, no matter what.
Of course.
If you schedule an hour and a half slot because you feel like you've got an hour and a half material, but you get the upfront stuff done and you know that there's 4 people you can release from the meeting. And I think I've stolen this actually from Arnie Silverman, who we're supposed to be interviewing soon.
Yeah.
That he said, you know, hey, I might just tell somebody, you're done, you're good, but stay near the phone for the next hour and a half. Like if I need anything, I'll reach out, but you know, you don't have to sit here while we handle business that's unrelated to you.
It's awareness, man. Like it's social awareness of like read the room, you know?
Right. Most of it is. Yeah. And you see that handled different ways. It's painful to me. My disdain for meetings almost matches your disdain for email. And the reason for that is because
just opposite of each other.
Yeah.
It's so polar opposite.
The meeting thing, when you've got 10 people sequestered in a room and you're thinking through the rates that these people are making and you're multiplying by 10 and you're going, we're going to do this week over week over week. And I've never heard 4 of these people talk the whole time we've been in here. I get that the heart of this is collaboration, that you're bringing people together, and that when people come together, they're able to talk in one room. But a lot of times there's not a whole lot of prep for the meeting. So rather than checking beforehand whether everybody got their models installed or put on whatever site is
uploaded,
being used, whether that's current, trying to take care in an email or on a project management software, everything that could be taken care of via, pictures and text. Hey, could you cover this? Yeah, sure, I can cover it because it's a single trade issue.
Yeah.
Disseminating between, I'm going to RFI that. Well, why don't you just go ahead and RFI it instead of talk about it with 10 people in the room and then RFI it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's the joke is like, well, the summary email that comes out at the end of the meeting could have taken the place of the whole meeting. I'm going to send an email out that summarize this, and that ought to take the place of the whole thing. That could have taken the place. You get some of that. But then there are times where you're sitting there and you go, man, this is a really good thing that we had all the heads in this room and everybody's able to look at it at the same time, really tackle a problem. A lot of that is based on preparation for the meeting, whether, you had some purpose, and some of these, we're going to meet every week at this time. I've seen that go both directions.
Yeah.
I'm seeing improvements in the industry. I'll pick on steel a little bit, not pick on it, but point it out. Just over the course of like 20 years, we've gone from being completely enamored by the technical models and everything. We've talked about that. But seeing the advent of the Ocean Avenger, the single spindle drill lines that came in, started occupying a lot of shops. You pick them up for $200K at the time. And then that started giving way to multi-spindle drill lines and plasma. And water jet tables were kind of a thing. But you just got more automation.
Welding robots too.
Well, now that's...
I was talking to Ricky Horton, who we're supposed to have on the show here soon. I was talking to him about welding robots, and I was asking him, I was like, dude, like how much data do we need to put into our models to get the weld right? Like, do we need to model the welds dead on every time? And he was like, it does help, but like the softwares that are even coming with some of those robots, it's pretty easy to just adjust it really quick on the fly and just like, no. Okay, this needs to be a 2-sided fillet, 3/16, or 5/16, whatever it might be. It'll even do some CJP, which I had no idea. That's interesting. So complete joint penetration, guys. That's if you're not a steel nerd. But it'll do CJP. It will limit the number of passes because you still got to brush off the weld. But freaking fascinating. Like there's automation that's coming in. And one thing I've realized, and even in that conversation that I had with Ricky, which I'm excited to get him in here, man, like that's going to be a good one. The steel industry overall is pretty freaking advanced. For like, if we're looking at the industry at large, all the different facets and specialties. I can't really think of another specialty where there's that much robotics and 3D modeling to drive the robotics. Like prefab would be obvious. So like bathroom pods. But even that is like it's a pretty repeatable sort of system. So it's like you're doing the same one over and over and over again. You're doing that 1,000 times.
More of a manufacturing effort than it is the custom effort.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas with steel fabrication, it is a custom effort of here is a beam. It may have a cope on one side on this beam and a cope on the other on the, like this one has 4 holes. That one has 3 holes. This one has angles for connection points. This one has shear. Like this one has CJP. Like there's so many variables in steel construction, and we're modeling it. And robots, for the most part, not every shop is doing this, but a lot of them are now, more and more. They're pushing those 3D models into the robots, and these robots are going in and they're drilling the holes and coping the beams and, welding things more and more.
You do stuff with miscellaneous, with railing systems. And
yeah, we've seen more of that too.
QC, that's a whole conversation.
Laser scanning and marrying the laser scan with the model, kind of passing that over. That's an interesting kind of workflow.
Here's an interesting conversation that we've had for years in ABSI, but we've been a part of this industry where there's been a transition from old school hand drawings to the 3D modeling, and it's steel detailing. And if you're a steel detailer, you know it. Like, you make a mistake, and all of a sudden you're having this conversation on repeat. The checker. And it's like, well, you need to check your stuff. You need to check it. The check.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Fine. We need to check our stuff. But how do I do that? And there's a lot of opinion on what should happen. And
there's also a lot of opinion on how drawings should look.
Well, yeah, how drawings should look. But then,
there's a lot of opinion across that whole,
I ask you, should I?
There are words.
We used to have these things called knockoff dimensions on the ends of our beams. So it does show a little minus. In other words, like, how much of the beam are you going to knock off from the center line of what you're connecting it to? And that would allow the checker to come back in, do the easy math to get back to the center lines and say, oh, that was a grid that was 20 feet from center to center, minus 3 inches on this side for the 6x6 column, minus 3 inches on that side for the 6x6.
Yep.
And so I start to establish my length, and I can check that.
Yeah.
Do I really need to go back through a 3D modeling software?
Which is a calculator.
And check every single dimension, like remath with probably a calculator. Why would I remath that?
Yeah.
Right? Why would I remath every single member? So, like, what do I check? How do I check?
Yeah.
It starts to take on a more automated role. Do I check in 3D? We've worked with our delegated designers in a new way where there's a lot more pass-through for connection design. There's automation for sure, depending on whether you're using SES2 or Tekla. That can happen different ways through either the primary software or a third party. But then there's all the custom stuff that comes in and your stairs and rails. And we're able now to pass IFCs back and forth.
Yeah.
And the delegated engineers are able to look at the IFCs and cruise through and see things that maybe they couldn't see before because you were just on 2D PDFs.
Yeah.
They'd only see what you showed them.
Yeah.
But all of that's going through to production. So we're exposing more information and getting more out of these things.
Which is great.
QC in a modern steel fabrication shop is now being done. Like, there are machines now for like plates.
Yeah.
That will, you can send plates down a conveyor belt. That conveyor belt is going to send it under basically a scanner. The scanner is going to take the plates, look at it, identify it for the part mark it is, pick it up, and then go put it in a specific bin with other parts that match it.
Yeah, this is P19, boom. This is P12, boom. This is P1620.
Yes.
And
then I go pick my bin, I carry it over to the assembler.
Yeah.
I place those parts on the assembler. The assembler now re-scans to make sure that everything's conformant down to a 30-second. Picks the thing up without any human intervention.
Yeah.
And then places it up to, I think it was like a 400-pound plate.
Yeah.
Depending on the system you got.
Chunky boys. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just
real chunky.
Pick it up and put it on the end. You imagine just taking a 200-pound base plate.
Yeah.
Pick it up, put it on the end of a column member.
Yeah.
It's just being fixed there by a robot. And then your automated welder comes down and welds it in place or tacks it in place so that it can be sent down the line.
Yeah.
The fitter's now being automated. The welder's now being automated.
Well, let me dig into this a little bit more too. Sorry guys, we're kind of going steel nerd here, but what was the main thing that we would get calls on? It's dimensional issues.
Yeah.
Dimensional issues.
Yes.
So I want you to connect the dots here with me, if you will. If I export from a 3D model and it's properly done in the model, it's right, and I feed that to a robot, the checking immediately goes away. Because if it's right in the model, then
the robot
will pick it up.
Yeah.
It knows where the plate goes. So the calls of, hey, you didn't dimension this plate good. What is that on the other side of this beam? Like, why can't you get your crap right? Those calls we always got.
Yeah.
Those go into a place of non-existence.
Well, they give way to, why don't your files work with my robot?
Yeah, exactly. And then you have somebody fixing the files. So there's a whole other rabbit hole we could go down.
Thing. Like,
yeah. So it's not perfect, but
give me this XML, but I can't do it.
Yeah. So like you start working through, like thinking through the process like that. And you're like, oh wow, no, I'm actually eliminating a whole step in this process that used to take, if we're honest, like let's call it back in the 70s. Mm-hmm. When they were still kind of hand drawing it and stuff. Can you imagine how much time they spent doing that? Checking? Holy cow. And the math that you had to do to ensure that it was right. Dennis talks about that. It's crazy.
It's interesting the evolution that happens too, because you think about like back in the day that what we would call a bolted welded clip angle would be like maybe a preferred connection. Why? And I'm not going to get into the nuances of that. If you're not a steel person, that's not as important.
You probably don't care.
It's not as important.
Yeah.
It was it's better to pay for a weld-laden process than to have this shop bolted process. Mm-hmm. Then the drill lines come in.
Now it's starting to look
now everybody's like, oh, no. We want bolted.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I've gone from, I used to weld that clip onto the beam. Now I just want bolt holes and I'm going to bolt it on the beam. Well, that seems like it would be a slam dunk better.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just want to bolt it up? I got an automated drill line. Well, now we've got automated welders.
Yeah.
So I can automate the welding of that member without having to buy bolts. Now what's cheaper and faster? And I got to check things like torque on the bolt and everything. Now all of a sudden it's come full circle.
Yeah.
So shop preferences have like changed and come full circle.
Yeah.
And like you're constantly asking, what kind of tools do you have? What kind of tools do you have?
Yeah.
What kind of equipment
do
you have? And it matters. It matters for driving the manufacturing process, and that manufacturing process is being driven out of the models.
Yeah.
And we've gone on and on and on about all of this stuff. Right. Very interesting how things are evolving. QC.
Yeah.
And your processes. And what does this now do? Why would I care about this if I'm like a general contractor's PM? Well, guess what? Your steel industry is now becoming more and more commoditized by this, which is something that's a very interesting thing. Like, if the welding robots are doing all of the welding, then that's kind of an equalizer.
Yeah.
The playing field is now being leveled a little bit.
Yeah.
Now my systems and processes and how I feed those robots is becoming more and more of the reason why my numbers are coming down. Not so much like whether I'm controlling my payroll.
Yeah.
Or controlling how many hours they work per week. Or controlling their output.
It's consistent.
The automated welder output is like, if it goes down, I might need calibration.
Yeah.
The guy that was welding, there might be all manner of reasons why his production went down.
Yeah.
Quality issues and different things.
Yeah.
It's just a very intriguing thing to walk through. So we have made some jumps.
Yeah. Even though like over the last 5 years, we've made a
ton
of jumps. Okay. When we started this like test fit with Clifton.
That was mind-blowing software.
Mind-blowing, but my gosh, you should see the stuff that they're doing now.
It still is. I was posting about them the other day.
Holy moly, dude.
Not a sponsor.
But seriously, guys.
Clifton, come on with it if you want to. We'd be glad to have you. But at the same time, we've been singing your praises for a long time because what you're doing out there is cool. And I posted about them, just said, hey, you need to know these guys. Because, you need to know these guys. This is an amazing tool. One thing that I'm going to pick on though, like there are so many innovations that are driving us to new processes that are more efficient and should be brought. I mean, they should be making things more environmentally friendly and making things easier to like count QC and get out to the field and bring quality up and keep people safe and all of the things. Awesome. I'm glad. And it's not just in steel. I mean, I can think of the glass and glazing industry. Like they're making big steps in the automation of how to manufacture the aluminum extrusions. Cold form metal studs. Dude, there's so much going on with equipment. Like, I mean, Howix one, it was kind of a brand name one, a couple others. But, I mean, those pieces of software and the ability to like put a wall together in cold form, to engineer that stuff, to send it through and have less waste, to bring it straight out of the coil and have it get punched or tack welded together. I mean, this is just so much.
And then you've got guys like John Fay who are just saying screw it and coming up with their own system entirely. Like
I got a cassette system. I'm just gonna
cassette system instead. And it's like it's so fascinating.
Very fascinating.
Yeah.
But this I have against you, construction industry.
So are we getting into the more gripey session?
This is the gripey thing.
Okay, so we went through a lot of the positive, feel-good stuff, I feel like, just then. Like, that was the first half of this.
Now we're going to get grumpy.
All right, now we're getting surly.
Now Grumpy Eddie has arrived. And Grumpy Eddie is a little bit older now. Grumpy Eddie.
A little bit.
My dad told me this had happened. After years in this industry, he was like, you're going to be just like me.
Yeah,
I'm not just like Dad. Dad and I are different guys, but at the same time, I get exactly what he's talking about.
I'm kind of getting there slowly myself too.
I kind of know a little bit like why some of the cynicism, why I'm not so bright-eyed and just like latching on to everything that comes down the pike.
So Mr. Potato Head, in other words, is putting on his angry eyes. This is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
All right, buckle up, everybody. Let's go.
Let me tell you something I've learned as an old man working on stuff. I make a conscientious effort every time I undertake a project. If I'm going to remodel a bathroom, which I've gotten the pleasure of doing in the last year, if I'm going to work on my deck, if I'm going to, whatever the project is, if I'm going to Lowe's to fix a sink, what I have learned is slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yeah.
I try to work like an old man.
Yep.
I try to, my brain goes 1,000 miles an hour and my feet want to chase my brain.
Yeah.
And I want to just up and go. Yeah. I want to up and go now.
Yeah.
Right? I see the problem and I'm like, I got to fix it. And I freak out and I run to Lowe's and I get as much stuff as I can think of right now. And I come home and I try to start putting the patch on.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting my butt down.
And thinking for a second.
Thinking about it and making a list and having a plan and asking myself, it's 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And I got a plumbing issue. And I'm about to start messing with our water.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm doing it tomorrow.
Hold up a second. Yeah, we'll just turn this off. We're going to make sure that we're clear. And we're going to do this tomorrow.
I'm doing this tomorrow. That was kind of the old plumber's adage. Like, don't start a project after whatever time you want. So 3 p.m.
Whatever.
Because the hardware stores would close. You couldn't get a fitting. Yeah. Now the hardware store's open till 9 o'clock. But you still got the water turned off.
Yeah.
And you still got an issue and it might not be hemmed up. You stop and you think and you plan and then you go. And it's amazing to me, even though I'm moving slower now, like I am purposefully trying to walk slower because when I walk slower, I'm safer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to swing boards around less because I got kids around me now. These are home projects. I'm kind of
right.
When I go out in the field, when I'm on a large commercial construction site, I'm trying to look around.
Yeah.
I'm not running around. I'm not like jumping off of crap, jumping over ditches. Like, I'm not monkeying over stuff. I'm being careful.
Right.
I'm looking for what other people are doing around me. Like, I am just more conscientious of my environment. And when I'm thinking about how to actually get something delivered to a site, I'm trying to think of the 10 steps it's going to take me to get there.
Yeah.
And yet, the design phase of our construction industry right now, dude, we are pushing more and more incomplete design documentation to construction than ever now. We don't ever see a complete for construction set of drawings, save maybe a military job. I'm serious. We'll see some Army Corps stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll see some stuff that like...
But that's because they're like so process driven, and it's like, this is what we do.
They just tell them what to do.
This is how we do it.
You might see
we do
a
it this way.
Jacobs or an AECOM or somebody, like some behemoth.
Yeah.
Like the larger design firms, I think they've got a little more to wield.
Yeah.
You know, a little more power. Because I don't think the design firms are like wanting to do this.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, it's like asking somebody, why don't we do some homework? And then, stop now. Let's send it out.
Yeah.
It's like, but you're going to be graded. Let's let everybody look at it.
Yeah.
You're not going to be completely graded.
Yeah.
You're going to be mostly graded, and your reputation's going to rest on this, really, because everybody's going to think you suck. But at the same time, you're not going to, like, I'm the owner. I'm not going to hold it against you. We got to go.
Yeah.
We got to go.
Yeah.
I get it, man. Like, the owner demands are there. There are demands on an owner that we know nothing of.
Mm-hmm.
We have had some solid owners come through the show.
Melanie
recently.
And Nick and like, dude.
Yes.
Amazing owners.
And they have shed light on that side, right? Like, what is it like on their side? And sometimes, like, the things around a job push,
mm-hmm.
and you just kind of have to. And that's reality.
Yeah.
But we are seeing, I think, a diminishing return on this routine. I think that we have gotten to a place where pushing design and releasing it too early is producing a diminishing return.
Yeah.
And we need to go back. I mean, Kelly Doyle was the first one that said that on the show. So I'm going to cite him. We've
mm-hmm.
cited him again. But that slow is smooth, smooth is faster, the military thing that you're told. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
I remember joking around with when Zach was here about this.
Mm-hmm.
That, it's a military thing, right? And he had actually been in the military and actually been to boot camp. And he's like, they scream it at you while they're making you go faster. So smooth, fast. Come on, go faster, go faster, go faster. So it's almost a joke, right?
Right. Yeah.
But the truth is there.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to go back and maybe rethink how we're handling things and start thinking like, I'm needing to work like an old man.
Mm-hmm.
I really need to start working like an old man on this project. And just, rushing out there is not going to solve my problem.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to get as far down the road by rushing this thing.
I've seen that switch in you for sure. Because like when we first started working together, it was like, go, like very fast. Go. And I've definitely seen you kind of dial that to where you're like, I'm gonna hold for a second. I'm gonna think, and then I'm gonna move. I don't know why. Anytime we talk about this specific thing, I think of Last Crusade, where Indiana Jones and his dad are like running around, and his dad just like sits down in a rocking chair. Sean Connery, sits down in a rocking chair, and he's like, I find if I just sit down and think for a second, the solution presents itself, I think is what he says.
Yeah.
And like, I keep coming back to that. I'm like, man, if we would just sit down and think for just 2 seconds,
mm-hmm.
which is funny because like when I was like still active and managing projects and stuff in the industry, I would see that all the time with other project managers. I'm going to call myself out for that too. I think everybody's guilty of it, but holy cow, man, like Captain chuck it over the fence is everywhere out there. Mm. And what I mean by that is just picking up the baseball, panicking, and chucking it over the fence like that instead of throwing it to the base that it needed to go to. Mm-hmm. And these people are everywhere.
Yep.
But I think we've developed this level of urgency across the whole industry too. And I wonder if some of it, not all of it, I wonder if some of it is due to a lack of honesty. How often do we get, I need it now, I need it now, I need it now, I need it now. And the sandbagging happens and somebody's rushing and makes a mistake.
Now, I've been privy to a few general contractor schedules that are off by easily 6 to 8 months. When they
Right.
come and present to you and they're like, we think we're going to need steel on site in November.
You're like,
And the steel actually starts getting erected in like April, May,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But you're jumping through your butt trying to get it there in November.
Right.
And like I've literally seen where you deliver and then the steel sits on the ground for like 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and there was a panic that happened a few years ago, I'll say some months back, where people were worried about getting joist to site, getting steel on time,
Right.
getting stuff from suppliers. I mean, we've just come through a little bit of a tumult as an industry.
Just a little bit of more.
And I also so I think there is a thing. I mean, the honesty thing, that could be a pretty easy thing to throw a lasso around.
Well, yeah.
But
It's more than that. I give you that.
Okay, here's
sure.
another thing that I think does drive it is that I think that construction, because of the innovation, because of our ability to push, because of our ability to pull things together, to maybe build more collaboratively, construction is like an accordion, kind of closing down on itself at the front end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there are a lot of processes that are overlapping now. And I think I'm going to make construction an animate thing.
Ooh.
Construction wants. Construction wants to.
Are you an architect? What just happened?
No, I'm not saying that the building wants to. The building wants to express itself here. I can feel it.
Once.
No. Construction wants to collapse these schedules. I think collectively, there's a lot of overlap in construction. So I'll point out like modeling. Like it pains me every time I see stair models, right? Okay, so like the architect does a stair model, then the engineer does something with the stairs. I don't know what. Well, I don't. I mean, I don't know to what extent they're going to detail them in a model.
Well, they're most likely going to say, yeah, there's stairs here, delegated design.
Delegated design, or here's some details I care about, or whatever.
Right, yeah.
So they're going to do their part. But there's like the effort given, like the different facets of a stair, or of things modeled in architecture, things modeled in structure. Like there's overlap.
Yeah.
You know, every time there's a structural model and it never makes it down to the steel detailer to start from. Why? Yeah. Why? There was a model. Why? It existed. It could be converted to native and you could take off.
Yeah.
Why? Why wasn't it done good, appropriately on the front end?
Yeah.
I think there's some things that could collapse, but then there's some industry firewalls that are keeping them from collapsing on themselves. Like, well, there's a detailing process and that currently most of the time exists under the fabricators. Mm-hmm. And then there's a design process and that currently most of the time exists under the architect and the consultants or the design builder. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to get over that firewall, deliver the model and, whatever.
There's a collapse
that could happen. There's a collapse that could happen on the design of connections. There's a collapse. Like there's all these things. Yeah. These are apparent to me in steel.
Yeah.
But I think they're apparent in a lot of different parts of the industry. I think other parts of the industry are getting a little better about passing things down, like ductwork models and things like this. Maybe there's a little more of an expectation that that's going to go through and make it into fabrication, though that's still being developed. But I do think the construction industry is starting to collapse on itself. Like the demand on schedules is there, but I think it's because we know we can do it faster.
Yeah.
That, massive project at Hartsfield was there because the owner had a demand.
Yeah.
There's money at stake.
Well, and that's the thing.
There's a business being run.
Yes.
And that's the same with UGA, Melanie's trying to work for the school for their best interests. And, it's a quality product that's working well for the students and is delivered on time without wasting a bunch of, money that they've been given from somewhere that they have to be responsible for.
Schedules have existed since the beginning of construction. Like this isn't new. They have to. This isn't a new thing. It just feels, I don't know. Maybe it's because maybe every generation kind of feels this way.
You know what I mean? I think there is a generation.
Maybe every generation has felt this way because it's kind of like I saw something the other day. I shout out the person if I can remember who posted it on LinkedIn. I'm sorry if you're out there listening, but posted this thing of like people don't want to work. And it was like, here's, today people are saying people don't want to work. And then it like tracked back through time and you see all of the different headlines saying kids these days just don't want to work. And it's like 1913, 1865. And you're like, holy cow, we're just parroting the same crap that we've heard for generations. And so I wonder if there's a side of this where we're talking a lot about the schedule, where we're like, oh gosh, there's always a crunch. But it's kind of always been that way, right?
There
and
is.
It's like there are just new problems within the crunch that has always existed. New things have arisen. I think everybody's trying to find this perfect world of like everything just flows. And, hey, we might get there eventually. But it's, I don't know. It's just an interesting thought experiment.
Something I'll cite Brent Hanlon for.
Okay.
An engineer I worked with on a bunch of projects. And Brent, I remember one time he hit me because I was always wanting to get out front.
Yeah.
I'm always like, it's kind of like what I was talking about.
We gotta go.
As I get it, I want to do something with it.
Right.
And he pointed out sometimes the best moment in time to do a thing is the absolute last moment you can do it.
Yeah.
Because you'll never have as much information as you will in that last moment. So you're letting the water stack up against the dam.
Yeah.
But you'll never have enough in your hands to really actually get through the whole thing efficiently.
Yeah.
Until that moment. So sometimes it serves you very well to wait and allow things to collect, knowing, I could have been pushing on that. I could have been yelling at people, but it wasn't time yet. Something I've had to learn as a detailer is to understand and read the room and know they're not here yet.
I agree and I disagree in some capacities because I agree that, you're never going to have as much information as you will if you do just kind of wait for a second, hold, and then go. Mm-hmm. Kind of Braveheart style, hold. One of those things. But also, I feel like you uncover a lot by starting the work early, and also you avoid the panic in some ways. Not all the time, but if you're a little bit more diligent earlier on in the process, that you're not going to find those, honestly, picking the baseball up and chucking it over the fence like we had mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I almost feel like you're more prone to do those stupid little error things if you do wait for the last minute and then you're scrambling and you're like, well, crap, I really wish that I had done that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think there's a fine line between a procrastination and a healthy wait. Okay. I guess is what I'm saying. Because king procrastinator here speaking, I know that has screwed me in the past.
If you're going to build an office.
Yeah.
All right. And you're going to go through and you're trying to nail that down for a number of factors, where it's going to sit, its code compliance, and then generally its usage. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to pin that building down.
Yeah.
You know that there are going to be decisions to be made.
Right.
Where do I want to drive on the lot? Where can I drive on the lot? What do I want? How much square footage do I want in the building?
Mm-hmm.
Does that pencil? Can I even afford that?
Yeah.
Does the financing work?
Yeah.
Has the financing come through? How much can I spend on design right in this moment? Is it time to move that forward? Am I at risk for losing the real estate? Am I at risk for getting too far down the road, spending a bunch of money I'll never get back? You're constantly trying to figure out, like, when do I make decisions?
Yeah.
When you're in that ownership chair.
Yeah.
Right? The thing I've seen, I've mentioned this a few times. I might get some hate mail out of this, but man, steel detailers are a curmudgeonly bunch.
Yeah.
And I are one. That's a lot of what I do. Say I are one. I fancy myself a builder first, above all. I just see kind of an arrogance about what we get and don't get. And kind of a know-it-all mentality. I'd have done it all right. I'd have done it all better. Mm-hmm. And here I am ranting about the construction industry and everything I change, and how I wish you wouldn't send me the incomplete documents that you send me. But I also will say I don't always understand everything that brought you to that point.
Right.
All I'm telling you is it's not getting you further. Like, I'm just telling you from my standpoint, my process, I don't move faster.
Yeah.
Like I feel like had you waited 4 more weeks to complete the design, that the detailing would have taken 4 less weeks. That's what I'm telling you. And I'd have peppered you with a lot less questions. You're working through design the building. You're the owner. You're making all these decisions. Like, there's a lot of decisions to be made in a building. There's a lot of decisions to be made in a building. Well, if some of those decisions change, if the design changes, and we say, we need to work to more detail. Well, you can't work everything to the nth degree right in that moment. You know how much time you're going to lose?
Yeah. Detailing
out something when, that changed. When it could be flippantly changed by an owner 15 minutes from now because, I don't really like that. Or by a committee that the owner has appointed or whatever. Yeah. Like, there are all kinds of scenarios where design change happens. So you're constantly trying to figure out how to get far enough without getting too far in the design realm. And not waste time. You're trying to figure that out from the owner's standpoint too. Like, how far do we go without getting too far? Yeah. And then many times we get stuck in this urgent mode. I think it's a moment of panic when we're somewhere in between that moment of, okay, I think we got the decisions made, and that moment of, okay, it's time for construction, that there's probably a few weeks in there that we could take. We could take a breath in there and say, okay, pencils down. Mm-hmm. We're going to send now. Or, hey, we're working. Yeah. We're going to collaborate. We're going to QC it. We're going to get everything ready. QC, QA is done. All right, construction, here we go. Yeah. And I know people aren't naive to this, but whether you're naive to it or not, you probably have been a participant in it, at least to some degree, trying to push and force something forward before it was time. Yeah. And I don't think it's gained us anything. I think that an ounce of planning equals a pound of cure, and that we would do a whole lot better trying to invest in the ounce instead of in the pound. Yeah. I think we would spend ourselves a whole lot less if we did that. Well planned will be smooth. Mm-hmm. And that smooth is going to make up ground. So I don't know, make up your ground in your good planning. And we've got so many innovations that are making us faster now. Yeah. Where you can reasonably expect to be faster at a task. So many things. And let's take advantage of that by planning better.
Yeah, we're I really think we're kind of in a golden age of all sorts of innovation right now, for sure. So you think about all the new things that are coming into our industry that have previously not existed for thousands of years. Yeah. So many new things have occurred. And so, it's cool to be kind of alive in this time. So take some, get some joy out of that. So we get to kind of discover all this together. I'll say this though, is like at the end of the day, I think what we continually come back to, and I would love to just kind of wrap on this idea, is like there's so much cool stuff happening in the industry. Don't get so wrapped up in the glitz and the glam and the pretty and the shiny objects that you try to replace people with a shiny object. Like you try to replace your people skills with a shiny object. We still need to be people. We still need to treat each other well in this industry. And I'll be honest, like I'm seeing some conversations about this sort of thing more and more lately. Like I'm seeing more conversations around like treating people well and mental health and all these things. That's great. That's awesome. We've seen a lot of progress. We got a long freaking way to go though. Mm-hmm. Like we got a long freaking way to go. I think the people that are kind of saying those things right now, they're kind of in that top tier, that top fold. It has yet to transfer down to a lot of other people in our organizations, I'll say. You see that pretty obviously. Just in going and reading some comments on TikTok, you can see that pretty quickly. The difference between LinkedIn land and TikTok land are very different. And so I think we've got a reality check that if you are just looking at LinkedIn and thinking everything's great and dandy and beautiful, you check yourself. The reality is that construction's got a long way to go from people's side. I mean, we're getting there. We're developing new cool stuff. It's a great time to be in the construction industry for sure. But my gosh, guys, we got a lot of work to do. We've seen progress over the last 5 years, but man, we got a lot of work to do. This has been a wandering conversation for sure, but hopefully there's something in it for somebody. Just kind of what we've seen over the last 5 years of doing this podcast, you know? We talked to a lot of freaking people.
Yes, we have. And we've learned a lot. So let's keep learning. Let's keep growing. And as we are able to build new cool things and just keep that learning cycle going.
Yeah. Well, I'm out of coffee. So I think that is enough reason.
It is time. The coffee with the bros is over.
Coffee with the bros is over. So guys, thanks for listening. Go build something awesome.